welcome to the opening of Geist Heidelberg. Now we have a great privilege to have a very prominent economist. Among these Nobel scientists, there is one, our guest tonight. In a way, he belongs to the elite and walks with Occupy. He comes from Gary, born in Gary, Indiana, a place that, in a way, cultivates the production of economists. It's for me a sort of a consequence that you then choose the right teachers. And Professor Stieglitz had great teachers, first at Amherst, but then did not choose Chicago, but MIT. And I think that is crucial if you want to understand more than just this book. But this book is the case of tonight, and so I don't want to go in too far details of the biography. You may know that he has received the Nobel Prize. You may not know that he has received a second Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, as a part of a report that was written in '95 of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which received and shared the Peace Nobel Prize in 2007. And you're always impressed by a gentleman who has such a sensitive ear for fairness, and that's why he's here tonight with the Preis der Ungleichheit. Welcome. Welcome, Professor Stieglitz in Heidelberg in the German-American Institute. One of the three pillars in the American Constitution is the pursuit of happiness. What did the fathers of the Constitution mean by happiness? Is it the concept that the 1% at present pursues happiness in the sense of meant by the fathers of the Constitution?
I think one of the really basic principles was underlying was that it was the ability of everybody to live up to their potential, and that's very much embedded in the notion of the American dream, that
Right.
everybody has equal of opportunity to live up to their potential, to pursue their pursuit of happiness. But unfortunately, you can't really do that if you don't have the education, if you don't have the resources to do that. And the sad thing that I point out in my book is that America is no longer the land of opportunity. There's less equality of opportunity in the United States than in any of the advanced industrial countries for which we have data.
But is that already a kind of betrayal of the American dream?
Very much so.
Very much.
And the question is, what can we do about it? But there are many other aspects that are sort of fundamental to America's self-conception, very much reflecting the principles that are in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Another one is justice for all. Another one is one person, one vote. But what's happened is that our system of justice has been increasingly one where justice for those who can afford it, and our political system is, rather than one person, one vote, $1, one vote. All of this is because of the unbridled excessive inequality which has become part of America's reality.
The title of your book, The Price for Inequality, reminded me of something I heard years ago when I heard Americans say that in the better times there was a kind of rule
that a CEO would not earn more than 7 times the average income of his colleagues in the firm. Was that equality already, or a concept for equality?
Yeah, that was somehow a sense of balance. Sometimes people call it a social contract, of the relationship between those at the top and those in the middle and those at the bottom. Today, that number, on average, is a little bit more like 250 to 1, and in many firms, it's well beyond that. There are many other aspects of the breakdown of the social contract. It used to be when we went into an economic downturn, firms would do what they could to make sure that they kept their workers, especially their better workers. Today, it's slash and burn. If a firm has a difficult problem, they fire everybody. And they say, I'll let the CEO in 5 years' time worry about the consequence, rehire people, and the result of that is it actually is leading to more instability and, over the long term, a less productive economy.
Yeah, I think that is a very crucial lesson in your book. The kind of immediate reaction could be a stigmatizing, a harsh criticism of the profiteers, but you seem to include them in a kind of in a thinking that shows we all are losing with this concept.
Yeah, even the 1%, and
even
this
the
is
1%.
one of the important points I try to raise. The problem is that they're not pursuing their own enlightened self-interest, or their self-interest rightly understood. They're looking at it very myopically, in the same way that the banks looked myopically what they were doing. They preyed on the poorest Americans. They engaged in predatory lending, and what was the result? The banking system was brought to the ruin. If they hadn't engaged in such predatory, discriminatory lending, they would have been better off.
Yeah. We said, of course, this is a student city, a university city, and we look carefully on the issue of education. And we have just recently gotten the information that Germany ranks pretty low as far as access to education is concerned. Now, in America, there is a different aspect. There is this student debt crisis. What is your opinion on university as an industry, educational industry?
Well, I think the fundamental thing is to realize education is absolutely necessary if you're going to have upward mobility, if you're going to have any sense of equality of opportunity. But what that means, once you recognize that children of poor families can't afford a quality education on their own, there has to be an important role for the state. There are different ways of organizing this, but what is very clear is the way the U.S. has been organizing is disastrous. What has been happening? Tuition has been going up, incomes in the middle and the bottom have been going down or stagnant, and to fill the gap, there's only one place to turn, which is student loans, but the way the student loan program works has not been good. For instance, we have a law that says that student loans cannot be discharged even in bankruptcy. So that even if a student borrows money and finds out, things don't work out well, he gets sick and he goes bankrupt, that student loan is going to be a noose around his neck. For student loans, there is no fresh start. Back in the 19th century, we put people who were indebted into prisons. We aren't doing quite the same, but we have created in the United States a kind of partial indentured servitude.
This brings me back to a very present event. That's the U.S. election, presidential election. I heard that the Republican candidate and his advisor from his former firm, the Bain Capital, sort of thinks that actually if 1% makes these huge accumulations, it would trickle down to. And is that the solution for the future of?
There was never theory or empirical evidence in support of trickle-down economics, but what is absolutely clear is that trickle-down economics hasn't been working. You know, I wish it were, because if trickle-down economics were working, all of America would be doing very well, because we've thrown an awful lot of money at the top. But one of the real sources of concern is that while the top has done very well, people at the middle and the bottom have not been sharing in our prosperity. Real incomes in the middle are actually lower than they were a decade and a half ago. So trickle-down economics has not been working. But what is concerning to me is also that the way we create this unequal inequality distorts our economy. So, for instance, the provision that Bain Capital partners have done so well means that they get taxed at a lower rate than others who are engaged in, I think, more productive activities. Speculators are taxed at a lower rate than those who work for a living of the same income. And that, in turn, means that you divert resources into speculation, into job-destroying restructurings that are debt-based, like the hallmark of the Bain Capital. All of that then means that you have a weaker economy.
Now, a final question. You are in Germany, Europe. We have our own problem. We occasionally get comments from overseas. And what is your attitude towards this kind of austerity policy of Germany, or say the hardcore of Europe?
The evidence, again, is overwhelming. No large economy has ever recovered from an economic downturn through austerity, and Europe is a large economy. Austerity has brought Europe into recession. And the irony is, of course, that when a policy leads to recession, tax revenues go down, unemployment payments go up, and the improvement in the fiscal basis is disappointing. And when Europe looks at what's happened in Spain and Greece and so many other countries, what's happened? Time after time, they say, oh, growth has been slower than we anticipated. The improvement of the fiscal basis is smaller than we anticipated. But not than I anticipated, and not than most real economists anticipated, because it was so clear that this kind of austerity was going to weaken the economy. This is an experiment that's been tried over and over again. As an American, we feel very intensely, because one of the early experiments was when Herbert Hoover tried it after the stock market crash of '29, and it helped convert that stock market crash into the Great Depression. IMF tried it in East Asia, and there it converted downturns and recessions into depressions, which is what has happened in Europe. Spain and Greece are in depression. People haven't been using that word, but that's what it means when you have 25% unemployment, 50% youth unemployment. You know, the only instances that people can find where you have austerity maybe not having the disastrous effects is where, as you cut back government spending, exports increase, or something else fills in the gap.
Right.
But who are you going to export to?
Right.
The United States, China, Asia are all slowing down. Who's Greece going to export to? Its trading partners are in recession. Spain, its trading partners are in recession. So the hope that there is going to be, that exports are going to fill the gap, or investments going to fill the gap, seems to me a hope that is going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for this brief interview, and thank you for coming to Heidelberg. And This is a wonderful book and should be recommended and read by everyone.